and welcome to the Around the Maritime podcast, part of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. Mavs Gillis, Jeremy Boucher. Jeremy, been 2 weeks. How we doing, buddy? What's the latest?
Well, doing good. Things are coming along. Keeping busy, and it's good to be back. And excited for another episode. We've got lots to cover, and it's cold outside, but what's heating up is those playoff races.
Yeah, we've got Trevor Georgie coming on today. He is the president of the St. John Sea Dogs, and looking forward to chatting with him. He's one of those guys that, again, he is an architect as a general manager. When they won a league title under him, they won a Memorial Cup with him at the helm. So I am going to be very curious to pick his brain on what that process is like, and also the process of what it's like to put in a bid to host the Memorial Cup, because in the last couple of years, it feels as if that Memorial Cup that event is really starting to take off.
Yeah, 100%. Every time I've had the opportunity to talk to Trevor, he's been super open, and he's a great guy. He's got tons of stories, and looking forward to talking to him. And he's a young guy. He's makes us feel old, Mavs. I think we've got a few years on him, and look at us and look at him.
Yeah, I think he's an 87, as they say in hockey speak. He's an 87. By the way, Jeremy, you put in a lot of construction in the room. Your room looks great.
Yeah, thanks. I did had some help with a nice virtual background. So I got the Brad Marchand here helping Team Canada at the Four Nations Cup, and I got Mr. Jura and Mr. McKinnon over my other shoulder here. And shout out to Melissa LeBlanc, my wonderful background designer. I think she did an amazing job, and I just said what I wanted, and this is how it came together. So I'm loving it. It looks great.
It's awesome that you got Brad there. You've been watching that Four Nations. You've been enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? It's the first time in a while we've had best on best hockey, and it's. I wish it would be more than Four Nations, but we've got the Olympics next year in Italy coming up, and then I think we got the World Cup of Hockey in 2028. Old Sid's going to be getting into his 40s here coming up soon, so it'd be nice if you get another crack at a gold medal.
I got to say, World Cup of Hockey needs to have more than 8 countries, okay? And I know that you're going to have situations where you're going to have teams that are going to get dog walked, but that is just the nature of building international hockey. There's 10 teams in the World Hockey Championships, okay? And there's more that can go in there. Not every team is going to win the World Cup, but they always add team in at the soccer level. I know we're not going to bring in 48 nations or 36 nations in for the World Cup of Ice Hockey, although, hey, congrats to Kenya. The Kenyan ice hockey program, they're starting to turn heads. Things are going well there. And but I would love to see more countries involved. I know it's an NHL property, and the NHL and IHF sometimes don't exactly play well together. But from my perspective, I do want to see. I want to see a litany of countries. I want to see more countries represented than just 8.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, with this tournament, it's to not have a player like Leon Draisaitl or David Pastrnak in this tournament is, it's just not the right thing to do. There should definitely be more than 4 nations. That's why I'm excited for some upcoming best on best hockey with the best countries in the world all there.
Yeah, the elimination of some countries there, and again, it's not to steal a professional wrestling term, but I do feel like there's a certain country that could be listed as the final boss. And the winner of Thursday night should have to play the final boss, even if they are called the independent hockey players of National Hockey League. And anyways, neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about Four Nations. We're here to talk about the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, specifically Around the Maritimes. And Jeremy, I'm going to start off with what's going on in Moncton. And as we see, there was right here, hockey is more than just a game. It's a community. And Wildcats fans are directly at the heart of it. We appreciate the passion and energy you bring to every game, But with that being said, we want to remind everyone that while conversations about the game are always welcome, personal attacks directed at individual players will not be tolerated. We understand the sports bring out strong emotions. That's part of what makes them great. But behind every jersey is a person, a teammate, a son, a brother, and a member of our community. These young men gave their all every time they step on the ice, and like everyone else, they deserve respect. Moving forward, any comments that cross the line from discussing the game to personally targeting players will be deleted. Let's continue to cheer loud, debate respectfully, and make this a place where every Wildcat, both on the ice and in the stands, can be proud to be part of this team. Jeremy, my friend, this is a message that was echoed by a couple other clubs from Quebec en français, and there is for me, I feel like there needs to be a passion with a purpose. Yes, go nuts, because this is what the league thrives on. We need to have vocal fans. We need to have people engaged. We need to have people loving every minute of it. Know the line. Absolutely know the line. And don't give me this garbage of, oh, well, they have to get prepared for the next. No, there's been some allegations of stuff that wouldn't even fly, that doesn't fly anywhere. And it's not to get on a Bob Costas-like sermon here, but know your line and cheer with purpose. This is one of those things, again, for myself personally, even when it comes to talking about trade rumors, I always try to put myself in a perspective of they're still teenagers. So who are we to discuss 16, 17-year-olds where they're going to be playing hockey, especially around that time? And you don't know what's going on with, excuse me, I'm going to turn my ringer up. You don't know what's going on with, in the background for some of these kids. And you know what? Lou Levesque, again, traded to Rimouski from Halifax. But before he went, gave one of the most impactful post-game interviews with us this season, where he talked about men's mental health and how it's important to talk about it. And if you're struggling, to reach out and get your help. And that stuck with me. There's no need for players to be impacted with mental health crisis or have themselves in a situation where they're uncomfortable with fans.
Yeah, and I gotta give kudos to the Wildcats here. When they put out this statement, it's meant a lot to me, just because it's the team that I follow the most, or closely, and going on their Facebook after games, regardless if it's a win or loss, there's just so much negativity. There's comments directed at players, and you're like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, there's no place for that. And the ones that say, you got to get them ready for the next level, because it's only going to get worse there. Yes and no. I mean, like you mentioned, there are instances that have crossed the line, and that stuff's just unacceptable. And I give props to Gatineau. Gatineau is one of those teams that kind of came out with a similar statement, so good on them. It was the right time to do it, because there really has been some comments that have really went over they crossed the line ever since. It's been since this time in Russo trade. There's been no other comments about no other trades. Like, it's still a trade that's still dividing a lot of people. And some of these people are just voicing their opinions on, Facebook and Instagram and in X, and it's too much. And so I'm glad the Wildcats came out with something like this. It just had to be done. It started getting too toxic.
And again, make sure you be at the games and yell what you want to yell. Keep it within the lines, even to the officials. We love our guys in stripes, our guys and gals in stripes. We love you, and we know you could take some you could take some abuse. Well, you shouldn't take the abuse. You can take the ribbing, you can take it in jest, and you can take it as part of the game. But again, there's lines. And I hope that anyone that feels they have, even are questioning if they cross the line, know to take it back a notch. Know to take it a step back. Now you bring up Steinman and Russo, and they met this weekend. It was a 3-1 win both nights for the Moncton Wildcats. But I will say this, I think the Halifax Mooseheads come out of there with the moral victories, because you are playing against one of the top teams in the country. And yes, Mathis Russo not in net for either game. And according to pregame interview, it said that he has a minor injury of the hand and he should be back soon. But this here is something that now we're looking at. Jacob Steinman let the first one in Moncton and then was lights out. And Steinman and the defensive effort of the Halifax Mooseheads kept them in it Monday. It wasn't until a late goal with 2 minutes left for the Moncton Wildcats to pull away to get that 2-1 lead, and then the empty netter about 40 seconds later for Marcus Vidicek. This is a big win. This is something again. And for the Mooseheads, again, in general, when I look at their last 10, yes, they're not finding the points for the standings, but man, oh man, the development for these 16-year-olds, they've got 5 in the lineup and they're in tight games. This is a tremendous job by Andrew Lord. A tremendous job. Yes, you want wins. Yes, of course. Herm Edwards, you play to win the game, of course. But for them to go against one of the top teams in the country, back-to-back nights, playing for their goaltender, who was traded from that team, that's a big statement. Now, I'm interested to see how long Moncton will have with Rudy in between the pipes. And Rudy's played very well. Rudy has played very well. He's got a very good team in front of him. But I'm interested to see where that goes, especially in the stretch of games that the Wildcats have coming up.
Yeah, I know for sure. Like, it's that game Saturday night, it was all Moncton. You look at, I think they had some like 50 shots on goal, but Halifax, they did such a great job. A lot of these shots are from the outside. They didn't let Moncton get to the middle of the ice and, get quality scoring chances. And you're right. Like, Moncton to score, I think it was 16 seconds in and then not get another goal until, late in the third period. It was an extremely tight game. Steinman kept them in it. You knew he wanted to win that game. He played lights out. And you flip over to Monday, and he wanted that game as well, and they were just so close. So yeah, like, tip of that cap to Andrew Lord. These guys have clearly bought into what he's selling, and they've got they are the youngest team in the league. On average, they're the youngest team in the league, and they're playing very inspiring hockey right now. And a lot of these teams are playing very inspiring hockey right now. They all want to get into the playoffs. They all want to get that experience. And, Jacob Steinman is, if the Mooseheads make the playoffs or, steal a game or two in the first round, it's going to be the Steinman show that does it. And he's absolutely playing the way you expect him to play right now. He's been their best player, and I expect him to be that way for the rest of the season.
Now, I'll get back to that with you in a second, because I'm going to switch my focus now over to the Charlottetown Islanders, because this is, an extremely dangerous team heading towards the playoffs. I understand that Marcus Kiersey will be out for a couple weeks, and thoughts to Ross Campbell, because that was a very scary incident involving him and Blake Pilgrim Edwards on Monday. And again, for you could see also there was a lot of fear with Blake as well, and I hope he's dealing with the situation all right. Islanders putting out a statement saying that Ross Campbell is okay and he's going to be fine. We'll see when he does get back on the ice. He's coming off Player of the Week honors, though. And again, this is an Islander team. I'm going to bring one of my favorite stats up here. We'll switch off from this part and go, this here is one of those things that I love. This is just the standings based off of the last 15 games. Now, last 15 games, what's so important about that? That is when the trade period ended for most of these teams. So this is an accurate representation of your teams going into the playoffs Charlottetown Islanders, right there, sitting in at third place in the Eastern Conference. 59 goals for, 46 against, right in there behind Rimouski and Moncton. And they had been on an absolute tear. Sitting behind them, the Cape Breton Eagles in that spot as well. And but again, I do just commend the Islanders. We've got the Islanders coming up this week on Friday Night Hockey. It is going to be the Mooseheads and the Islanders. And then we're over to Charlottetown next week too. So I'm very excited to get back to Charlottetown. But I'm excited to see this Jim Holton-led team, especially with them being much improved. And I know I've sung their praises on here the last 2 weeks, last 2 episodes. I'm very excited to see the Islanders.
Yeah, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. You talk about momentum going into the postseason. They're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. And it's the way it's matching up. It looks like it could be Rimouski, it could be Baie-Comeau, could be Chicoutimi, it could even be Cape Breton. And those are 4 teams. If they can take advantage of maybe a team that's maybe looking past them a little bit, we could see an upset in the first round. And this is a Charlottetown organization that hasn't won a playoff game since June of 2022, right? They were swept in 2023, they were swept in 2024. I like their chances of breaking that streak. They're due for a win or two, or even a series win to get those crowds. And you look at if it's a Rimouski or a Chicoutimi or a Baie-Comeau, that's a 2-3-2 series, right? You take one of those first 2 games, you're going home to Charlottetown for free. Good luck. So that could be.
Now, one of the things I just say, I'm bringing up the standings as I sit here and watch, and I'll take away the form and look at here. So again, Charlottetown, Acadie Bathurst, Cape Breton, and Baie-Comeau, 7 through 4, a log jam there.
Mm-hmm.
Halifax is 3 points back of Quebec. The point I want to make right now, and just looking at this, is what would be a more intriguing playoff matchup to you? And I know it's team games. I know it's 18 on the roster. But Moncton versus Halifax with the aspect of the goaltending battle, or Charlottetown versus Cape Breton with the aspect that Nicholas Rucha, the MVP from the Eagles last year, was traded to the Islanders.
That is a toss-up. You can't. I don't think you can pick a series that would be more motivational for either goalie. You're looking at a Steinman situation here where we've seen what he's capable of doing, and if the Mooseheads happen to get a bounce or two, these games are completely different stories. And Nicholas Rucha has been absolutely dominant against his former team, the Eagles, this season. So those are, I think, from a fan perspective, those are 2 series that I think you'd absolutely love to see. Just the rivalry of both would bring people to the arena, and you're going to get you're going to have a longer series than what people think.
And again, I think it would take, I think for a Cape Breton Charlottetown matchup in the first round would take a lot of moving parts for that to happen, but it is definitely not off the table. Moncton versus Halifax, though, I am willing to wager that the Halifax Mooseheads are able to find a way to catch the Quebec Remparts and make themselves a date with the Moncton Wildcats. The Wildcats, though, are going to have to ensure they're going to have to ensure that they keep that first place. And this stretch here, where they could be without their top goaltender, although again, Rudy has been living up to his name and allowing the fans of Moncton to chant Rudy, Rudy. They do that? They do that, Jeremy?
I haven't heard it yet, but it's it's coming. If I was in the stands, I'd be starting that chant every night. But I'm surprised it hasn't. he's
just opportunity.
Playing well enough for a Rudy chant to break out here, and it very well could happen. If Russo happens to be out any longer, we could be in a situation where you got Rudy Guimont leading us into the playoffs, and some Rudy chants break out. I'd love to hear it though. That's a great movie.
It's a great movie. It is a great movie. It's a cinematic masterpiece. Don't ask about the real Rudy. Don't ask about. Joe Montana had a lot to say apparently, and I'll take his words over. Wrapping thing. I know we're gonna talk St. John Sea Dogs. Acadie Bathurst is a team that yes, they did pick up a win, but they're starting to trend in the wrong direction. What's some things that you think that they need to do to get things moving back the right way?
I think they just got to stay motivated. It's the move to Newfoundland's in the back of their heads, and I'm not sure if that's what it is that's maybe affected them lately. But there's still a focus. There's still a month left in the season. There's still the playoffs, and we saw what they were capable of doing last year. If they can find their game, they could very well do it again. I just think they've got to start focusing on the task at hand, and get the whole move out. That's what kind of irritates me a little, that it was announced when it was, just because that's what the players are talking about. That's on their minds when they're at the rink, when they're playing hockey. It's, if anything, it should have been, I know from a planning aspect, it had to be announced when it did, but at the same time, it's affecting the players, and it's the results show on the ice.
Yeah. I get that it's affecting the players, but again, this is a second time in Newfoundland. And for me, Jeremy, the onus is this time they've got to get it right. And not just for the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, but for the future of hockey in Newfoundland. Because it didn't work with the A, although it at the end, I should say it didn't work with the A. St. John's Maple Leafs were gangbusters until they weren't. The Growlers had a nice run. There's senior hockey being played in the Mary Brown Center right now. The St. John's Fog Devils was a couple years, and then it just evaporated. The devil went down to, was it the devil? The devil went down to
down to Georgia.
He didn't go down to Georgia. The devil went down to, was it Blainville?
Oh, I think you're talking about the song.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm playing off the song. Devil, where's the Fog Devils relocate to?
The Fog Devils relocate. They were the Montreal Juniors, were they not?
Okay, so the Devil went down to Montreal, and now that's Blainville, right? If I'm not mistaken. I gotta. You know what? I will say this: the history and archive section of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League site has been completely updated. So if you want to go and find where the St. John's Fog Devils moved and what franchise tree they are, it's all available for you on this wonderful website. Great job, though. Seriously, in all seriousness, it's a great job done by the league of making that work for them. But this needs to work. It cannot fail, and that is why they really had to make this. They had to make their splash. The regiment, and to go from the regiment, to go from one team that's having some struggles in the Maritime Division. Trevor Georgie is going to be on, and we're going to talk a lot about the good days, but this is again a team that they've lost their last 9. We'll see again the cycles of junior hockey, and he will be the one to tell you there's got to be some pain if you want to go back to be in that talk for Memorial Cup. Hey, the playoffs are coming not just in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, but as well in the NHL, in the NBA. The Masters are coming up, and you might be wondering, how can you ensure you don't miss a moment of the action? Well, you can get Prime Sports for free when you bundle it with TV and internet. And you say to yourself, wait a minute, you bundle TV and internet and get Prime Sports for free? Who would do that for me? Why, your good friends of Eastlink will do that for you. Get Prime Sports for free. That's Golf Channel, TSN, Sportsnet included, so you don't miss a minute of the action. Go to eastlink.ca or call 1-888-345-1111 or visit one of our stores for more information today. All right, joining us, Trevor Georgie, President, St. John Sea Dogs. Trevor, thanks for coming aboard, man. Good to have you on Around the Maritimes.
Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, just to get things kicked off here, believe it or not, it's almost been 10 years that you've been with the Sea Dogs organization, and prior to your time with St. John, you had the opportunity to do some work with the Leafs and the Raptors and Florida Gators, and pretty long list. What did you learn, I guess, from those experiences that you've brought to St. John?
And that's a great question. 10 years. It is incredible. I think, it just goes by so fast. I got thank God for Facebook notifications, because or Facebook memories. It reminded me the other day, I think my first Sea Dogs game as president, and the game before. And then, it goes by super fast. I can't believe it. What have I learned? And what did I learn and bring to the table here? Well, starting at Maple Leaf Sports is really helpful. The CEO at the time was a gentleman named Richard Petty, and Richard was really, really big on vision, values, where are we going, what type of people do you want on, rowing in that direction, hire slowly, fire quickly. He had a lot of principles that were very, were really strong, and you could feel it in that organization. I know at the time we hadn't won a whole lot as in an organization. It was MLSE, but the people, they were really solid, and everyone knew where we were headed. And I think that was a really great experience to learn from someone like that. And I know coming to St. John, Scott McCain, who's on the team for 20 years now, is big on values and how we treat people. For us, our vision and values are all over our organization. On our walls, we have, treat people better than you expect to be treated. The platinum rule, not just the golden rule. And you can really feel that. And I felt that with Scott, and the way his family treats me. And I think everyone could probably feel that throughout the organization. In fact, we had an agent the other day who's never had a player come play in this league, actually. And we were having a conversation with a family that he works with. And he said that he had spoken to the agent, and the agent mentioned he had heard that St. John took really good care of their players. And I think that's something we really pride ourselves on. So, yeah, that's one of the things I think I helped maybe bring here and just reinforce. And I think it's really important. It all comes down to the people.
When you're talking with agents that this is their first time dealing with the Q, especially where there is that change, what have been some of the selling points you are giving to people that are new to this league?
That's a great question. I think it's so often so easy for, for folks outside of our league and different leagues, different kind of cynical fans, to think that when you're getting a top player to come to this team at St. John or any of the bigger organizations across the CHL, they think it's like a big bag of cash. I think that's kind of the easy thing that people kind of default to, but there's so much that goes into it. And, the number one thing is, a family is sending their son somewhere to develop as a person and as a hockey player. And they're sending them to an organization where, they need to feel like they trust the folks that are running it and believe in them and have a track record of developing and winning and taking good care of their players. So I think first and foremost, it comes down to making sure that they, establishing that connection with them and making sure that they have that trust in you, because it's a big decision. You're dropping off your son and leaving them for 4 years. See, in 4 years, the 20-year-old ceremony, which you guys have seen a million of, not one has gone by where a parent has not said, "Wow, it feels like yesterday they just started playing junior hockey and now they're 20." And so I think that's the most important thing. I think that's the most important thing that we can sell is the people and the organizations and the opportunity in front of them.
Yeah, and talking to agents, you took over as general manager of the Ski Dogs after, the first year of being president. And, part of your role as general manager is talking to agents. So were you always interested in kind of the hockey operations side of things?
Yeah, certainly at the time that was not the plan at that pace in terms of the team. I started in so I remember I signed my contract with the team Christmas Eve and joined the team. Moved here in end of January, and then joined the team in February, and then took on the gym responsibilities in August. Definitely not the plan, but yeah, always interested in that space. Oftentimes I think of adults, I'm sure for you guys too, you're just older versions of yourself. You think of some of your interests. I remember I would spend hours and hours and hours, making trades, building the teams on NHL. And then I'd play the game a little bit, but I'd always want to, do that part of it. I was always fascinated with that part of it, fantasy leagues and things like that, like most. And so it was always an interest of mine. I've some family on my mom's side that have been NHL scouts. I was just always really, really fascinated by it. And I remember watching the Brian Burke press conference. You guys probably remember that when he was announced as GM of the Leafs. And he was in front of the, at the table there with Richard and Gord Kirk. And he's like, it's the Vatican of hockey. And, all these big hyperboles, which Brian does. And it was always just a space I was fascinated with. I remember vividly, different moments in management. I loved doing the GM duties at Wasserman. I was on the golf side. And since then, Wasserman has really gotten into the hockey side. They have Austin Matthews, and I think they have McDavid now, and et cetera, et cetera. They have Zach Morang, who plays with us now. So, that part of the business is always a bit interesting. I mean, there's no higher risk than building a team and betting on them to win and kind of living and dying by that. It's the ultimate high, and it's highly addictive.
We got a chance to talk to players and ask them about what their favorite memories are, some of their favorite highlights. It's rare that we get to talk to a guy that was a general manager. So I got to ask, what are some of your favorite transactions that you have made over the years? Things that stick out for you.
It's a great question. We could have, how much time do we have? And there's also, if you want to talk,
we got all the time in the world, man. It's the internet.
Episode 2. We can do episode 2 on all the bad ones too. So we can, look, I think, over the years, one that stands out for sure is, the Joe Veleno trade. Joe was in his NHL draft year. We had just come off the Memorial Cup in Windsor. Joe, I think, was a point a game there as a 16-year-old. For him, I think he was looking for an opportunity to play on a contender again. We were looking for an opportunity to rebuild and restock the cupboards with picks. And I remember setting the price at 5 first-round picks for Joe. And I remember speaking to some teams, and they're like, "You're insane! Like, there's no chance. We're not giving you 5 first-round." Like, just very short conversations. And I remember one night, I remember speaking to teams that were interested, or Drummondville ended up getting him. And there was one other team that was highly interested at the time in Quebec. I won't name the team, just sort of respect to them. But I remember going to one of their games, the other team that was in on Joe, and watching their game right around the trade period. And I remember getting in the car with our assistant GM at the time, Anthony Stella, and we got in the car and I said, the other team's GM, the team that we didn't go watch, he's going to call before we get back to Montreal. And he said, "Why do you think that?" I said, "Well, Hockey World's too small. He'll have known that we were at this game through people, and he'll know how serious we are at this other team. We're going to get an offer tonight." And within 45 minutes, I remember Dom Ducharme calling, who is the GM and coach of Drummondville. And he said, "Okay, let's make a deal." And it could have been coincidence, or could have not have been coincidence. I certainly don't think it was coincidence. Everyone loves hockey rumors, and the word travels really fast in those rinks. And we worked out a deal that ended up being great for Drummondville and great for Joe. And for us, it was 3 first-round picks and 2 seconds, close enough to the 5 firsts. And that set us up. I think those picks turned out to be like Jeremy Poirier, Brady Burns, Josh Waugh, which we traded, and then we were able to turn to like William Dufour. So that trade really helped us build that up. The William Dufour trade was great. Duff was we were coming to his 4th team. Every time his team was going for it, it seemed like he just wasn't in that age group. and being able to do that deal again, another deal, Drummondville at that time with Phil Boucher. I mean, to add him to our team was huge for that Memorial Cup tournament. There's a long. If I would go through it, there'd be a long list of those that were really, really special. And those ones definitely stick out. That trade period in 2022, like the eve of that trade period, we made, I think, 7 almost. I don't call them all blockbusters, but pretty close. I think that trade period, it was like 42 pieces that moved. So we added Connor Trenholm. We had Connor Trenholm, Marshall Lassard, Vincent Sevigny, Nick Hertzebes, Nick Blagden, Phil Daou, Thomas Couture. It was a long list, and we only really got some of them done overnight. Like the trade period was done at whatever time it was, noon, and I remember being on the phone till like all night, and some of them were just getting done, and we announced them kind of all around the same time. I think media thought, like, what's St. John doing? They're hosting, they haven't done anything. And then it was just like boom, 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 boom. Highly stressful trade period when you're hosting. That was highly stressful trade period. We thought we had a few deals done that didn't necessarily come together for a variety of reasons, but it was great. Again, that high stakes, kind of everything on the line. I love that. That's what you live for.
Yeah, I kind of remember that trade period. I remember a brief conversation with Richie Tebow about maybe you guys being on the phone until 3:00 in the morning doing that Phil Daou trade. So I don't know if that's true or not, but
very true. Richie's. We're I don't know why you found out Phil. We found out Phil was going to come back from the American League, and it was basically like us, or he wasn't. Like he wanted to come back. He wanted to come for this opportunity, and we'd found out a few days before that Noah Patnode was injured, and we just didn't really. We kept that really quiet because we thought, okay, well, someone's going to rake us over the coals for a goalie, but we weren't sure the time with Noah, and then and Nick Blagden. We had a lot of interest in Blags. He's a local guy. You can never have too much toughness and intimidation in a lineup. I know the game's changed, but there's still an element. Intimidation still exists in everything, even though maybe fighting does. Intimidation definitely exists, and we wanted to get Phil and Nick and Thomas, and that was a wild one because Moncton and St. John, not a long history of making trades. No, it's not. Not at all. And Richie, we were on the phone quite a bit. He was excellent, and the Wildcats were great to deal with on that one. But that one started late and went really late, and it's worked out for both teams. They're having a hell of a season this year, the Wildcats.
When you're in the trade period, what are some of the things that I guess that people don't know and wouldn't know until they find themselves, until they're in a situation as a general manager of a Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League team?
That's a great question. I think a few things. Like anything, you have to do your homework. You need to know and have a sense. So often, I would spend a lot of time when I was in that role, really understanding what other teams were doing, just to have a better sense of the lay of the land. To really gather, okay, what does the market actually look like for a right shot defenseman? What does it actually look like for top 6 forward? So I think that was always really important. You spend a lot of time looking at what even other teams that you're not even really competing with, that you don't see as in your cycle. You're still trying to really understand, okay, what's actually happening. I would say that where agents have a ton of influence in a trade, in all of this, and I think coming from the agency side, and we had an agency at Wasserman, there's a lot of we obviously represent a lot of talent in multiple sports. I already kind of understood the role of the agent was really important, and so if a player really does not want to go to a certain destination, they won't, right? Like, if a player does really want to go to a destination, it can make it really difficult for you to kind of hold on to that player because they're applying pressure to send them somewhere. So I think that that's a piece that it's not just a transaction between two teams. It's that all the players and involved kind of have to fit. We've always taken a really transparent approach with our players. And I'll give you an example. In 2017, we were going for the Memorial Cup that year. And, when we went and acquired Simon Bork from Rimouski, it was really important for them to get Sam Duff McFalls. And I remember before we made that trade, calling Sam and just saying, look, I don't want you to read about this 4 months from now, 5 months from now, think I've ever misled you. In order for us to add this player, they want you back. We're probably gonna have to trade you in June to them to live up to our end of the bargain and keep our word. And I just don't want. I want to make sure you're good at that. Like I don't want you to go through a season together where we're saying we're all in this together, we win together, we lose together, and ever have you feel that I've misled you. And I think that's really important, just being upfront with the players. And certainly it was an easy conversation. I remember Sam just said, I want to win, whatever it takes to win. If he's going to help us win, we'll deal with June when June comes around. I just want to win. But I think it's really important to keep them in the loop. Like the players know, more times than not, the players in trades, Travis and I talk about this all the time, the players know what's happening before we know what's happening. Like they just know. So I think it's important to be really open and transparent with them. They're young adults. We expect to treat them like men, or you got to treat you like men. Well, then I think you have to reciprocate and just be honest like that.
Yeah, looking back at those, the moves you made in 2022, you go up against Rimouski in the first round. You lose Game 5 in overtime. What's going through your head when you see that goal go in and you're hosting Memorial Cup in your own round one?
Do we really have to cover this part, or could we just move along to?
A follow up. So maybe we can get to the follow up.
No,
if you don't want to talk about it.
No, I'm just joking. No, just joking. No, happy to talk about it. Look, obviously not ideal. And no one felt worse about that outcome than the guys in the room, the guys behind the bench, myself, management, all of us. You should feel like you failed. I certainly felt like I failed a group, and a group being players, coaches, fans, Scott. Like you invest so much of your life into it. It's really devastating. And I remember that night when we lost. I remember that series was a tough one because they had, I think, won Game 1, then we really beat them Game 2, and then their goalie had a game of his life. I think it was Game 3. I don't know, but I remember the finals. I was watching the game with Scott up in the suite, and the emotions are high. I remember when we lost. I don't think I've ever seen napkins and a cheese board fly so far across the suite before. It was certainly frustrations were high. Understandably so. We've committed a lot to this build. We've talked about this team, this nucleus that we said, hey, from day one, those 5 guys, we're gonna ride. Those 5 guys, we're gonna win with you or lose with you. We're sticking together. And it was a real tough pill to swallow. And Rimouski was super well coached, and Serge Beausoleil always knows how to Gelatos group. Credit to him. It was tough. I remember going down after the game, and I remember Scott speaking to the players in that. And I'm a strong believer of, you don't need 2 people super vocal and yelling at you. There's a time and place to pick that. Sometimes throughout the season, they need to hear my voice, and oftentimes they don't. Like they know. So I remember not saying anything and just reflecting and just digesting it all. And really I was in solve mode. Okay, so what happened? How do we fix it? We're fortunate. We won the bid. We have another opportunity to redeem ourselves here. Let's just get to problem solving, and let's not spend time emotionally kind of distracted by it. We have a finite amount of time. Let's just take a step back, breathe, and figure out what we're wrong and find a solution. So, and Gardner, when he came in, he said something that was so true. He said, in order to have success, you need to sometimes get kicked off the mountain, right? And that group, because of COVID, because of a whole variety of factors, really never had playoff experience. And so their first taste of playoffs is when they're supposed to win the whole thing. That's pretty tough. And, looking back, I'm really thankful we had that experience because in the end, we won the ultimate prize, the Memorial Cup, and it was all worth it.
I've always been curious about this because you now have experience in both. What is more difficult, winning a league title or winning a Memorial Cup?
Oh, that's a good question.
You say the Memorial Cup's the toughest trophy to win, so it's
it is now. And again, just for clarity, there's 9 teams that have won the Memorial Cup without winning the league title. And it seems to happen every 4 years. And but as of recently, you guys did it in the 22, Saginaw in 24, Windsor in 2017. So there's been a bit of there's been some consistency in it. But again, you won a league title, didn't win the Mem in 2016, and then you come back here, and there's it's one of the weird anomalies of our league.
Great, excellent question. I'm gonna say the Memorial Cup.
Okay.
And the reason for that, in 2017 when we won, we were adding at the trade period, thinking of our own league. We added Callum Booth in net, who had experience but didn't win Quebec when they hosted. We added Simon Bork, who had won, I think when he was 16. No, Simon Bork had won the President Cup, and Julien Gauthier, who had also been there. We're building to win our league, and your eyes are on, let's get through our own league. The only exception I'd say to that is I remember watching the Windsor Spitfires in the fall around the U17s, I think they were, and going to Windsor, watching them play and seeing, I think it was Stanley and Logan Brown, these big guys, and going, we need some size. Like we need a bit of size here. And I remember actually turning to one of their owners, and a wonderful family, and saying, we'll see you at the Memorial Cup. And he kind of laughed, and they ended up winning. But it was kind of really nice folks. I actually had done an internship with one of the former owners of the Spit. So I love the Spitfires. I have a big passion for that team. That term is tough. Like, it's the best teams in each league. They've won. They've done it. It's such every goal counts. Every minute is so crucial. You don't have time. Like, winning the first game is so important. Like, everything is just under a microscope. Everything with even the media for the players is something they haven't really experienced to that point. Memorial Cup, I'm going to say that definitely the hardest to win.
One thing that I picked up, I was reading an article about your trip to Windsor, and there was a lot more to that to kind of figure out how to bring a Memorial Cup to St. John. What did you pick up out of that experience, especially to go into that bid process?
Yeah, I have great question. I know not a ton of redeeming qualities, but one of them, I can often see the outcome of things. How we get there is not necessarily clear to me, but I often can see, I can picture and visualize where we're going to end up. In fact, I remember my first visits to St. John with Scott. I remember walking down the side streets and seeing the city. And I remember then, this was like 2016, my first visit, saying, and then we'd close down that street and we'd call it that would be the OHL street. And then that street would be the Western Hockey League street. Then we'd have a district over here. I could already picture it. Something that's very visual. And so any of the times I was able to go and see us hosted Windsor and understand what they were doing, it was really, really helpful to understand what worked, what didn't work, and take things from that. Even throughout the bid process, we spoke to so many folks. We don't have all the answers. We spoke to so many folks that had been there, done that, experienced it, the pros, the cons, what worked, what didn't. And I remember the only thing with Windsor, again, having done some schooling there and having been involved with the team a little bit there through one of their former owners, was the rink is far from the. Have you guys been to WFCU Center?
Never.
So the rink would be like easy 20 minutes from downtown. And so that was something that very clearly to us is not the case here in St. John. It's all walkable. And then when we started thinking a bit more of Quebec City as a host, we saw that as a area of opportunity for us. Is that okay? Quebec City, we're not going to compete. Their practice rinks as big as our TD Station. We're not going to compete in that area. However, there's no chance they can compete on proximity, walkability. So having experienced the Windsor one and seen they did so much that worked, and there's no, it's not, it was a great Memorial Cup, excellent Memorial Cup, but just by, they couldn't change that. The rink is just further from the downtown core. And that was something that certainly we picked up on and tried to really hone in on in our bid against the Ramparts in Quebec.
Going back to, 2022, you mentioned Gardner earlier. What was that conversation like when you got in touch with him about, coaching the Sea Dogs of the Memorial Cup?
He is one of the most interesting, colorful, determined, passionate people that you'd ever come across. And you guys have already done the pod with him, so that comes across very, very clearly. I remember meeting with Gardner here very briefly. We had a short window to make some decisions, and we had spoken. Gardner was the only coach in contention that didn't have NHL, that really didn't have any NHL coaching experience. What just struck me with Gardner was his ability to motivate, inspire, really get the most out of young men, and also his experience winning tournaments. I mean, right now, the season's a season, it's done. Now we're talking about a tournament. So who has most success winning tournaments? He did. And so for us, it was, there were some really impressive candidates that we had been speaking with, but, Gardner turned out to be the right choice. I think just by contrast of styles at that point, the team had, I think the second half we had two 12-game or 15-game winning streaks. So we had a really strong second half, and then they were kicked in the teeth after the first round. And I think the team at that time just needed, they'd been beat up in the media, and they'd been beat up, by fans. They'd just been beat up so much. They needed someone like Gardner to come in and go, okay, boys, let's some positivity, some confidence, because he'd won tournaments. They needed that total change, and Gardner's quite a 180 from most any coach in the league because of that little high energy, seize the day. I remember in the mornings chatting with him, and he had run. Again, I hope I'm not underselling it, but I'm not sure. Again, I don't know how this could be underselling someone's workout routine, but he would say he did 10 kilometers in the morning, and then he'd after every kilometer, he'd stop and do 100 push-ups or something like that. He'd be at 1,000 push-ups before 6 a.m. And he just, his energy and his enthusiasm was contagious. And it was exactly, in the interview process, felt like that's exactly what this group needs right now. We have 30 some odd days. They're very disappointed, obviously devastated with the outcome, and they need someone like that. And that was why we made that decision.
Was there any conversation to try to keep him?
I'm trying to remember. We were really appreciative of UNB having been so open-minded to allow him to come and coach. He was still very much the head coach of the UNB Reds. And, we certainly didn't want to, so much respect for that program and that school. We didn't want to put anyone, Gardner included, in a bad spot. We chatted kind of jokingly how much we'd enjoy working together long term. I think that, Gardner is certainly someone that doesn't take no for an answer. And, that's certainly our philosophy, my philosophy too. We really got along really well. I know him and Travis get along, really well. His son Taylor and I are very good friends. So there's a lot of things that worked really well in terms of the dynamic of how things could have worked. But I think his intentions were to go back to UNB, and we're entering a rebuild, which isn't always fun. It was incredible. I mean, he came to junior hockey for 4 games, it turned out to be, and left with the World Cup champion. So at that time, I think it felt at that time for, I think, both sides, that was how are we going to top this? But he might top it this year.
Yeah, he might. He might. To go back to that night, you score 2 quick ones in the first. At what point did it sink into you that, yes, we're going to climb the top. We're going to be on the top of the mountain?
So the entire going into the entire tournament, just for context, when we were recruiting our players, and making trades and all that stuff, but going back to even the 2018 draft, we were telling all our players and their families, because we were so committed to it, that we're going to host and hoist the Memorial Cup in St. John. And we've said that over and over and over again. So the pressure, we had a lot of college decommits, if you think back then too. We had, Josh Lawrence from BU, Peter was Boston College, Cam McDonald was Boston College, Charlie Gayros was Northeastern. We had a lot of players really believe in what we're doing here. So the pressure is not just to win, it's that we've made a commitment to these players and their families that we'd have get to experience this really special moment together at TD Station. So the pressure could not have been higher, because I think certainly I would have felt personally responsible for it not happening. And that's a hard thing to live with, considering all the sacrifices these young men had made. So we're in the tournament, and every day, to calm my nerves, I'd listen to same song on repeat. And I remember my wife just saying, like, you seem crazy. Like, you're just listening to the same song over and over again. But it was just to calm my nerves. I was, just calm my nerves. This was kind of the, right now, just enjoy the moment and settle down. Also, for context, many people throughout the tournament said, well, geez, even going to that final game where you can't impact the outcome. Like, you did your part, you made the trades, you hired Gardner, you've done your part. There's nothing you can do. And I absolutely do not agree with that. I think you can always, I believe that you can always impact an outcome. For instance, if late in the game we needed a timeout, we didn't have one, I could throw something on the ice. You could do anything to you can always impact an outcome. It's a cop-out to say that you can't influence an outcome, because you can always do it. Whether it's
who do you think you are, Bobby Heenan?
No, yeah. I love that deep sling reference. I love that. I just believe, like, you can. I'm making that. Obviously, you'll never do that, but there's always a way you can always influence the outcome. So I don't think the pressure of winning and being able to sit back and go, "Oh, I've done my part." I don't like that. Never, ever, ever sunk in. Never, ever sunk in. It was always feeling like, have we done enough? How could I do more to help support this group? And the final period. So first period, definitely didn't think we were out of it. We were going to win. Not that we didn't think we were going to win. I knew that we weren't out of it. Second period, I knew that we weren't in the clear. Third period, I remember drinking a water bottle and taking sips and counting that every last minute. So like 21-minute segments just to get to that last bit. And the moment where I feel people I know had started to leave the suite, and I remember the announcer announced, I think, the parade at like the 5-minute mark. And the moment where I knew we were going to win was when Peter Reynolds came down, scored an empty net goal just to seal and give us that breathing room. And I've never been happier in all my life. And I was so happy for Peter, because Peter had left BC to come play here. His dream was to win a Memorial Cup in his home province. He grew up as a fan of Spencer Smallman, who was our captain when we went to Memorial Cup in Windsor. And right before that, Josh Lawrence has scored a goal, again, a Frederictonian from here, gave up BU to come play for the St. John Sea Dogs in his home province. It was just so special. But until that moment, sipping water, counting down the minutes, probably humming that song in my head.
What was the song?
It was Spirits by the Strumbellas.
Okay.
Yeah, they had played that song at the Container Village here, I think on opening night. I can't remember, but it just stuck with me. I might be misremembering that, but it just stuck with me. I listened to it, just on repeat. Still like that song.
Yeah. ever since that, that Memorial Cup, I mean, St. John has been doing, lots of off ice, different sort of promotions, to get fans in the building. I think we all saw the Coach Chippy prank. I still laugh when I see that one. But I want to ask you about the Dog Bowl. It was unique. I haven't heard of anything like this before when it comes to a Q team, putting on a high school hockey tournament and giving the MVP, invite to training camp. How did that idea of a tournament kind of come to mind? I know Riley Bezo, drafted by the Sea Dogs, played high school hockey. Was he more of an inspiration for this tournament? And what did the organization like about Bryce Cunningham to bring him into camp in August?
Great question. As wonderful as our hockey operations team is, led by Travis, our folks in the office are excellent, really creative, very always looking young, energetic, looking for new ways to create fan interest. And again, appreciate Scott as an owner, because he's very much open to new ideas, try new things, let's do something different, which is really refreshing. He's not, he's a man of strong fundamentals and traditions and values, but very, very open-minded, trying new things, and encourages us to do that, which is so really, really nice. So the Dog Bowl, so Riley Bezo, I think he was picked 199 that year, drafted, I think, 12th round of St. Malachy's High. Riley, played 1 year, I think with the Vitos, then went to Junior A, played 1 year with us. The next year won the Memorial Cup and then played pro. So to go from high school hockey to pro hockey is quite the feat. And just there was a meeting at the office with some of our team, and they threw ideas around of how to better integrate, do a better job of engaging high school hockey players and hockey in the community that's outside of the QMJHL. And this was the idea that came about. And I like the name, the Dog Bowl. I thought that was a really clever idea. The schools really got around it. And I think next year we'll expand it as well, and have, maybe a women's division, add more schools. It was really nice to see. And it's a really, we did a skate at a practice at the Bell Center, thanks to Kent Hughes, who had set that up for us. We really appreciate that. Maybe 2 weeks ago. And for a lot of our players, it's an opportunity to go out and obviously get a practice in, but it's more than just that. I'm sure they're imagining what it'd be like to play a game in a building like that. And for a lot of them, that, was their first time ever experiencing, stepping on the ice in a building like that. And I think that what the Dog Bowl also did locally was give high school hockey players a chance to take part in a game that they probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten that full experience with, the music and the goal songs and the win songs and all that. So I think that was something that hopefully memories that they'll remember forever. And yeah, we're excited for training camp. I think it's really, really unique for that young man to get that opportunity to show what he's got. He has a leg up over a lot because he already knows he's coming, right? Like he's got months to prepare. So I understand he had played, I think, AAA the year before, and then went back and played high school hockey in Sussex. So What a nice story.
So is that more Money in the Bank or is that a Royal Rumble? Yeah, but
I expect him to fully show up with the briefcase. That's like a dog roll. He's cashing in.
you have to, hey, new dog bowls have to come with a briefcase
I love that.
with the contract.
love
To talk. I know Jeremy talked a bit about the sports entertainment aspect, if you will. But let's get into it. There has been a lot of the bread and circuses of the St. John Sea Dogs, and there has been a lot of off-ice stuff. What have been some of your favorites?
On the wrestling piece with the briefcase, we actually we have Travis has the belt in the locker room hanging from the top, like you'd have in a ladder match. But we just he has Ric Flair robes after the game for guys. Yep. So like, but the other day the strangest request I've had yet from a coach GM was to add the what does Roman Reigns wear? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a blue one, and that's going to be incorporated into some sort of team building. Favorite ones, Bret Hart's night last year was great. Like Bret was awesome. Just such a really good guy. Spent all the time with the fans, spent time with sponsors, and afterwards told wrestling stories till 3 a.m. at Rockies. And so that was really cool, just from just to hear it directly from him. And he was so generous this time, like just outstanding. The classified game that we did in the concerts were great. The classified one, the game that it didn't happen, but he still did a performance that night, and it went really well. Card Now was really good. We have a wrestling theme night coming up that we're pretty excited for. We have some jerseys that I think you'll definitely they haven't been done yet in the CHL. Yeah. They're pretty cool. Like I was a big Scott Hall guy growing up, and Kevin Nash and Hogan. So these jerseys, I think will for those that followed wrestling in the 90s will be pretty excited. Will be pretty cool.
They'll be outsider inspired.
They'll be outsider inspired. Yeah. It'll be St. John for life. St. John for life, for sure.
I am Trey excited for this. Trey excited, man. That's I wish we would go up and cover wrestling night at the Sea Dogs game. That would be fantastic, man.
Been up. We'd love to have you,
man. I'm curious about the draft, because it seemed this year that you guys had a leg up on going after some American talent. What was kind of the thought process with you and Travis this year?
Yeah. So, last year at the draft, I know that Anthony's view and the scouts here at the time was, hey, let's take some swings on some guys. When you get to later rounds, let's see let's take some Americans. We think it's an untapped audience. Let's take some players that aren't coming. I don't think, we certainly at the time did not think that it would happen so quickly with the rule changes, but we definitely by the information gathered felt that, okay, it seems likely that these changes are going to come at some point. But certainly we didn't expect it to happen so quickly. We love taking swings on players because, as I often Travis and I will say is, if a player does not want to come play for the Sea Dogs, it's not because they actually don't want to. It's just they're misinformed. So we just need time to educate them a little bit about the experience here, and share the benefits of playing for the team. With the U.S. players, it's different because you have to educate them on where is the Q and what is what is this league, and you start at such a macro level and then have to get down to a micro level. So there's a little bit more to kind of explain, which is also nice because they don't come in with any preconceived notions. They're kind of open-minded, like what is this? It's been great. Obviously, like we have Matthew Crayer and then his brother Dylan. Zach Moraine came before the rule change. Like Zach was ready to come before the rule change. And, in the summertime too, Dylan Rossi and William Muir, they could have gone and had commitments to a plethora of schools and opted to come play for the Sea Dogs. And, still on our list and very much a player we're excited to hopefully have in our lineup next season is Cameron Chartrand. We believe the top defenseman in that whole age group, just an outstanding young man. And, we're still optimistic and, that we'd get him in our lineup next year. So, they'll all be really helpful. And this year we go into the draft with 3 first-round picks and an early second. So, 4 picks in the first, 25, 30 picks. It will certainly be helpful. We've been through this in St. John countless times. We're all in and then we're all out. We're all in and then we're all out. And that's just the way that it's worked for us. And, that's the formula we're sticking to. And, these our 07s with our 08s and now this 09 group with some high draft picks, those are the groups that we're going to be building with.
You mentioned Zach Morag. How has his acquisition benefited the team, from knowing how skilled he is? How fast does it expedite, this rebuild in St. John?
Yeah, Zach, super talented. I mean, like world-class talent. It helps. Like it just helps. The more you need. It's of our belief that you need 9 top 6 forwards to win a championship. You need at least 4, but probably 5 top 3 defensemen. Or top pair defensemen even to win a championship. You need 2 goalies that can be starters. That's our belief. Because you don't want one injury being one injury, one tough night, a suspension to really swing your chances of winning, your probability of winning in the wrong direction. So Zach, you add him to Olivier Groux in that age group. Up front, you had, William Yared and Dylan Rossi and, Matthew Crayer, who just joined. And I'm missing guys, obviously, but, you need a lot of young men rowing in the same direction to win a championship. And, Zach certainly has the talent to be a dominant player in this league. And, we saw an instant for our players in their draft year. Elliot Dubé is another one. We saw instantly more NHL scouts at our games because of Zach's presence, and that's good for everyone.
It is a young roster. Who have been some of the kids that have kind of surprised you this year with the Sea Dogs?
Yeah, I'm not going to say surprised because we really believed in them, but they're having outstanding years. Dylan Ross and William Yared are, I think they're still second and third or third and fourth in scoring for 16-year-olds in the league. They've had a really, really good start to their young careers. And Olivier Groux has taken a big step this year. He joined our 07 group with, obviously Zach who's come in and like Egan Beveridge and these other young forwards. And he's had a really good year, shown a lot of leadership. He's been really strong for us. And there's a bunch of folks a long list of guys I could mention, but those jump out to me at this time.
I guess just last one for me, Trevor, looking at where you guys are in the standings, no pun intended, but, you're in a dogfight for a playoff spot. And, knowing how young of a team you are, I think it's, second youngest in the league. If you want to look at average age, how much would it mean for the group to, get some postseason, postseason experience?
Yeah, great question. We strongly believe that having playoff experience is really important and integral to this formula. Again, the group that were drafted in 2018 and then 2019 and ended up winning the Memorial Cup, they didn't really experience postseason hockey until the year they had to win it all, and that's really challenging. Postseason hockey is just different, and we'd really like to make the playoffs and add that mileage and add that experience to their toolbox for sure.
Well, it's looking like it's definitely a possibility with the crossover to the Western Conference. So it would be it'd be Drummondville. Wishing you best of luck there. Again, we love seeing our maritime teams get through and get that playoff experience, because as you talked about it, about your young crew, your crew that was at Memorial Cup, you never had the playoff experience, and it came back and it did affect you in that year. To gain that experience, it'd be huge.
Definitely. That experience, whether it, obviously they're challenging experiences, but those experiences are really important. Like bad experiences, there's no such thing as a bad experience. Just some are more challenging than others, and any experience is good experience. And it'd be important. It'd be important for this group. We really would like them to have that. But we would like them to have that.
So we've sprinkled in a little bit, but I know that the St. John, it's pro wrestling in St. John is huge in the Sea Dogs organization. It is huge here. So you've already talked about how Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are you guys. I'm going to assume you were a WCW kid over a WWE kid.
I was you know what? I was a WWE kid.
Okay.
But the NWO was they were outstanding. I felt like growing up, we always got WWE on like TSN, but we didn't get WCW as often. Yeah, big wrestling fan. Travis is a huge wrestling fan. Our CFO is a big wrestling fan. Our captain is a big wrestling fan. You go down the lineup of members of the organization that like or really enjoy wrestling. It's the lineup is pretty deep.
Good. I love to hear that. And knowing your captain's a big wrestling fan, he's probably going to get asked wrestling style questions coming up when we have you guys on Eastlink. I'm going to make sure that happens. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, what's you got a favorite match?
No, I'm gonna go.
It's Litany. Yeah.
When I was in high school, my dad took me to see WrestleMania 18 at the Skydome and got to watch Hogan and The Rock live. It was from as far up as we could have sat, so I was watching mostly from the Jumbotron, but the electricity there was unbelievable. It was incredible. I'd say that one. And then if we wanted to do like a real deep cut, I would say any match that involved Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome in ECW. I don't know if you watched ECW.
I was at ECW One Night Stand, and I was at the original one. I saw Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. I watched the chair shots live, and I saw Masato Tanaka get thrown through the table to the outside. And I left that night. One Night Stand, the original was incredible. Leaving that night after watching Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka was that for me, until my Japanese excursions, was one of the craziest wrestling memories of my life. It was a close second to seeing when we went to the first time I saw WWF. I saw Macho Man Randy Savage versus The Undertaker. It's one of the 3 times those guys would have a one-on-one match. It was a weird situation because Warrior did not show up. Who knows why? But in his place was on the executive decision of President Jack Tunney, a one-night reinstatement, Macho Man Randy Savage versus The Undertaker in Moncton. First time I saw the Fed. And that was pretty cool. But Masato Tanaka, Mike Awesome, some of the most hard-hitting, incredible spot fest of matches. And watching Tanaka take chair shots was insane. It was, again, they don't do those type of chair shots anymore.
No, I can't believe you're at One Night Stand. That is, I think it's the single greatest pay-per-view.
Oh.
That WrestleMania 17 was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But how did you get tickets? Like, how did you even?
So
how did that even come out?
I was working at a summer camp down in I was down in New York for a couple summers, and a couple of guys there, big wrestling fans. And so when I was going down, they just said, "We're going to One Night Stand. You in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in." And it's fun. One of our guys, his dad was a high up at the Garden, so seeing One Night Stand was incredible. being able to sit front row of Madison Square Garden for Monday Night Raw was also pretty spectacular. So shout out to the guys in the group me chat. We're a bunch of marks. Scott Ratner, thank you, buddy. But yeah, no, it's that's how I got to One Night Stand. And of course, I didn't get a chance to see an actual ECW show. I did get to One Night Stand, and my buddies who had been down to Philadelphia, they've been down to Rittner, they've been to the arena, they've seen a lot of the shows. They said, Mavs, this was good, but it's still, it wasn't like the original ECW. But being in the building to sing Enter Sandman as the Sandman made his entrance in that venue, I saw Metallica live. My favorite Metallica memory is singing Enter Sandman at One Night Stand.
That would have been just the greatest. Nothing like that. We went to a ECW WWE put on show in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Not even close to the stand. But we met Sandman outside in the parking lot, and we made a Singapore cane, and I actually got he took a picture. He was going to plan to hit me with it. He actually hit me with it pretty hard. And so I got a photo of me hitting him with it. So anyways, he says, where are you guys sitting? We kind of told him where, and he says, okay. And so for his entrance, he came and poured the beer on us. Or it was like non-alc beer. And we were just loving it. Sandman what an incredible character. Have you seen his Dark Side of the Ring?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, Hack, it's crazy to think a guy that would just smoke cigarettes, drink beers, and cane people. But again, that he did it in ECW, and all of a sudden Steve Austin did it on the biggest stage of all, and it got over. So there's a lot of ECW that goes into WWE. But yeah, no, that is actually really cool that you got that experience with the Sandman. That is, yeah, but a big ECW mark as well. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, someone compared me to Joey Styles on my New Japan excursion, and I was excited about that. But I also got compared to Bob Uecker, which I don't know which I rather, Joey Styles or Bob Uecker. But
did you call matches in New Japan? Did you call matches in Japan?
I did. Yeah, I called. I had six cards in New Japan. I was down did some stuff in the States. Then COVID happened, and it kind of put the kibosh on that. But you never know what'll happen. So yeah, it was over in Japan. It was good. So yeah,
that's amazing. What an experience. Like very few people on earth can say they've done that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's, you know what, just calling wrestling in general is crazy, because again, you're there. I'm used to calling other sports. The combatants in other sports don't come up and throw you out of the chair to grab your seat that you're sitting on to hit someone. And Tomohiro Ishii did that to me in Japan. So I was they did. I'll never forget it. Never forget.
Do they, I know this, I'm sorry to keep asking questions now. I'm interviewing you, but do they tell you in your ear? Like, do they give you spots or they have any storytelling? No. They just let you call the match.
They just let us call the match. Yeah. In that atmosphere, again, they just let us call the match. And it's something that, again, I've listened to Jim Ross talk about calling, and he doesn't want to know because he wants to be able to react. The last thing you'd want to do is blow the spot, right? If you think something's going to happen and it was just a setup, but you blow the spot,
so cool.
Yeah.
Jeremy, how like big of losers do you think Mavs and I are right now? Are you judging us hard, or was that?
No. I mean, I'm not as big into wrestling as you guys are, but I'm starting to think that maybe it's a prerequisite to be a wrestling fan if you want to be a St. John Sea Dog. You know, I like there's those pre-draft interviews on Zoom. Like, is that one of your questions? Like,
100%. For sure. No. It's amazing the amount of folks in hockey though that love wrestling. I have some agent friends, NHL scouts. There's a lot of guys that you wouldn't have no idea that absolutely love wrestling. And I'm not just saying that to make Mavs and I look more cool, but it is actually a thing.
It's the best form of pure storytelling. And I think, and again, people could argue that sport is, and I agree, but if you slap down your money and you go into a game and it's a blowout, That's not exactly the storytelling you want. You know, with professional wrestling, you're gonna get your money's worth.
100%. Well, you look at us. My wife the other day was like, "We should go to a Savannah Bananas baseball game."
Yes.
And I'm just like, "Look," I'm like, I'm like, you laugh at wrestling, but this is an evolution. This is out of evolution of wrestling. It's sports entertainment. That's what that is. I don't know. That's my thought. What do you?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Absolutely. And I'm always been of the mindset that sport in general is, it should be taken as entertainment. If you're not competing, you need to take it as entertainment. But Savannah Bananas, it's just like the Harlem Globetrotters. It's the Globetrotters of baseball, and that is indeed entertainment. And of course, someday the Washington Generals will be due, but you go to see the show with the Bananas. I've had friends that have gone down to see it. It's incredible. And even like when you take a look at old timers hockey, when they would come in and do fundraisers, playing against fire departments, playing against community groups. Again, that's a full sports entertainment atmosphere. I mean, Rod Black was skating around with a wireless mic and doing commentary while playing on the old timers team. I mean, that doesn't happen in regular sport. It's all entertainment aspects.
That's what we're here for. We're entertain the fans.
And again, and to your point, again, with everything that I've keep watching with the Sea Dogs, it seems like every second night it's a theme night, and it is important. You're competing against everything in the economy now. It's not just competing against the movies. You're not just competing against other sporting events, you're competing for not just money, but attention. And you need to find ways to get people to slap their money down and say, yeah, I had a great time. I'll do that again.
100%. Thank you guys for doing this pod, because having one, especially for Around the Maritimes, is, I think, just so helpful. Media coverage has changed so much. Even in my 9 years of being in the league, so to have you guys know the game, passionate about it, doing this it makes a big difference.
Awesome, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. So, yeah, I'm good. Jerry, you good?
I'm good.
I'm good. Awesome.
Want to see you guys? Want to see you guys make the playoffs?
Thanks. I hope so. I hope so. It would have been fun to have a Moncton St. John series, just for all the history in that. But not, they obviously have an outstanding team. But even just getting in and playing Drummondville would be great, getting great experience for the guys. I'd like us to make the playoffs too.
Before you guys love another. Sorry. I was gonna say, I would love another 2010. The Moncton St. John final, like, that was absolutely bonkers. I know, like, the cycles don't really match up lately. But with this NCAA thing, you never know. It might expedite rebuilds, and we might have another Moncton St. John final here in a few years. And that was, I remember going to every one of those games. It was absolutely nuts.
That'd be awesome. And I think it's great. Just going up and down the highway for those games would be incredible.
Before I let you go, I am just going to go back on the wrestling thing as well. And I'm going to give a shout out to Sylvain Couturier, because we were doing a game. We were getting ready for a game, and Sly just started throwing out the Quebecois wrestling names. And I was so impressed by his knowledge as well. And I'm talking 70s and 80s, and he was just, so if you ever need any Luke Grand Prix references, Sly is your guy on that one too. So
I didn't know that, but I might be giving him a call then.
Yeah. He was just throwing out Carpentier, and he was there was a manager as well he was throwing out just again. So if next time you're talking trades with Sly, just have a little bit of that Quebecois pro wrestling history in there that goes a little deeper than the Rougeaus and Dino and of course Quebec wrestling. There's a lot of history now. Mounty's coming to Cape Breton, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there as well.
The Mountie? Like the actual?
Yes, I saw.
Really?
I saw the Jacques Rougeau's going to the Cape Breton in I think in May. So, but
Well, Travis and I might have to make a trip.
and because Bret Hart night was such a success, Bill Goldberg night's never happening, right?
That is a great reference. That is a great reference.
So, oh man, I appreciate taking the time, Trevor. As always, man, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. This is a great way to spend an hour. This is so good. Thank you guys.
So you're looking for a setup with your wireless and your internet? Did you know the good people of Eastlink have you covered? Because we've got unlimited wireless, unlimited mobile, and 1 gig internet. It's a bundle on for $109 a month right now. That's $109 a month for unlimited mobile and a gig internet speed. A gig internet speed. That's blazing fast. That's the internet speed that I use to create the Around the Maritimes podcast. So if you're curious about how you can have that set up, call 1-888-345-1111. Make sure you check at eastlink.ca or visit one of our stores to get yourself hooked up with eastlink.ca. And again, the Wi-Fi, it just works. It honest to God, it just works. Jeremy, that was a great conversation with Trevor Georgie right there. I was very interested to hear about the process of what goes into building a roster for Memorial Cup run, and again to get his perspective and to hear what it's like to be in that spot where you're so close to realizing your championship aspirations and what that game would feel like, and to have him give us a great explainer on that and a rundown of that event. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, it really was. You had the sense that didn't exactly feel comfortable talking about that upset against Rimouski, but good on him for being honest and telling us really how he felt, and you could sense it in his voice that it was still hurts to talk about, but at the end of the day, they still managed to win it all, and making the coaching move to bring in Gary McDougall paid off.
Well, this week, next 5 games are going to be critical for your Wildcats, and especially the matchup against Drummondville. I'll be keeping an eye on that. I know we've got the Mooseheads and Islanders coming up on Friday Night Hockey this week. Next Thursday, I think I saw the Q Showdown. What time? What game we got here? Plainville and Acadie Bathurst on the 27th. Chicoutimi Drummondville is going to happen before that game, though. Of course, keep that eye on that. Shout out to Andrew Brown, Luke Coughlin as well. Maritimers on the team of the week. But yeah, that about does it for Around the Maritimes this week. What do you look forward to the next 2 weeks, Jeremy?
I want to see these playoff, as tight as these playoff matchups and standings are, I want to see them get tighter. It's that's what's going to make an exciting end of the season. We got a month left, and hey, you know what? The battle in the East is going to be good, but don't sleep on the West.
Can't wait. All right, we'll see you at the rink around the Maritimes in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League.